All right, welcome again, everyone. We are about to get started with our Black Excellence and Legacy Lunch series. Essentially, this space started back in February, where we're bringing in Black alums to come in and just share their stories of Black excellence on the Hill and now in their own professional, personal lives, and how that's coming up and showing up. We keep this space very formal, informal, as I said before. And without further ado, I will turn it over to our amazing guest for today, Phyllis Jones from the class of 1995. All you.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Chris. I'd like to extend warm gratitude to yourself and to OME for allowing me this space to share some thoughts about my time at Holy Cross, what I'm doing currently, and ways in which we can improve rather, social justice, Black excellence at Holy Cross, making sure that legacy remains alive and intact. As Chris mentioned, my name is Phyllis Jones. I did graduate from Holy Cross in 1995. While at the Cross, I majored in history with concentrations in African American and women's studies. I was also a member of the Hannafy Howland Committee, who brought amazing speakers to the college. The typical groups, I was a part of LASSO, Asia, BSU, and Bishop Healy. And I also had the amazing opportunity to start a gospel choir, which allowed me the opportunity to integrate both my own spiritual background and some of my culture into the Holy Cross framework. I'm celebrating my 21st year of public service with a federal agency in DC, and I also run a small consulting firm here in Maryland. I'm on vacation at the moment, getting some much needed R&R, so I do apologize for the informal setting, but I need it, so bear with me, and I hope I say something that's enlightening and helpful to everyone. So Chris asked me to start the segment by mentioning some items that bring me joy. And I would have to say at this stage and at this juncture in my life, watching my 8-year-old son mature and become his own person brings me both extreme joy and pain in terms of what's probably about to come in the years ahead. I think raising children is a blessing and it's an honor that God gives us. But when you are raising a Black boy in under the current circumstances and you realize the support that you have and the access that you have, it becomes that much more of a fruitful experience. So I would say that's what brings me joy. Back to you, Chris.
Thank you so much for that. And as I said earlier, I am so happy that you are taking some well-needed R&R for yourself because we as Black folks, like, we go through so much every day, and we're still in a pandemic, right? And life is happening, and we have to find ways to nourish our souls and our spirits, because there's so much going on, and we got to take care of ourselves, and we got to do what we need to do so that we can still show up and be there for ourselves, be there for our families, and be there for our loved ones. So appreciate you for joining us, even on vacation, to share your story with us. So, um, first question for you is, and for folks who are on the call, you can feel free to drop a comment or a message in the chat at any time. So we welcome the ongoing dialogue. So feel free to use the chat function. So first question is, what does Black excellence mean to you? And how would you define Black excellence at Holy Cross?
Well, for me, Black excellence is everything about survival and success, right? Many of us already are very familiar with the history of Blackness in this country, what it means to be Black, how that changes, how that grows, how it expands. But the story of survival and the fact that we rest on the laurels and stand on the shoulders of so many generations before us, and the fact that we're still here, still encountering um, levels of injustice that I think are just heartbreaking for many of us. Black excellence is the story of Black survival. So, on a very personal level, what it means to be Black is the ability to get up, put one foot in front of the other every single day, hold your head up, hold my shoulders back, and face the world. And I think there's so many individuals in our personal environments, in our circles of influence, in our workplaces, in our friendship circles. We just touch lives. And the fact that we can influence, impact, and affect others with our stories, our ability to be truthful, our ability to be brutally honest, that is one of my strengths. I call it like I see it, not with the intent to harm, but with the intent to really bring people in. You got to tell the truth. So Black excellence for me is the story of Black survival. Now, in terms of Holy Cross, um, I define Black excellence at Holy Cross as both a blessing and a burden. And let me qualify that statement. Holy Cross is very, very fortunate to have and to continue to have very prolific thinkers that attend the school right now and those who've graduated. However, the college, to me, this is both my personal opinion, and there's also evidence to support what I'm about to say. The college seems to have not done the best job of keeping the legacy of Black excellence alive and readily available for both alum and current students to enjoy. For those of us who want to really learn about what's happened prior to our arrival on the cross, and those of us who really need a safe space to embrace Blackness on the Hill. So it's no secret to some of my friends who are on the call. I am a prodigy of Dr. Ogretta McNeil, the late Dr. Ogretta McNeil, who came to Holy Cross, I want to say in the 1970s. And for those of us who were her students, for those of us who just felt the pressure of Regretta, Ogretta, that was her nickname. I think Black excellence at Holy Cross in a lot of ways is synonymous to Ogretta McNeil. And I feel that the college has had points of periods of great representation of her legacy and keeping Blackness alive. And then they've had inflections of downfalls. So you'll see breaks in structures. And let me qualify that statement. So when I was a first year student, we had a very huge racial incident to happen at Holy Cross. And it led to a movement of diversity. Rhonda Brown, I think, was brought in as a attorney who dealt with some of the legal issues. We had cross department efforts to occur, where you had more efforts to recruit Black personnel across the board. That happened for quite some time. A lot of it came from those of us who were on campus who kept the pressure on both the administration, student body, student government. We kept the pressure on. And it led to the hiring of, I think, Dr. Jacqueline Peterson. Later, when Ogretta McNeil retired, Mabel, I forget Mabel's last name, Mabel Milner, I'm sorry, she came aboard. But what also happened is that you had the lack of continuity. So Black excellence at Holy Cross has been very, I don't want to say sporadic because that's not a very credible word, but the continuity of the Black experience at Holy Cross is the responsibility of Holy Cross. If you can talk about the greatness of the lacrosse team, the basketball team, the educational sectors, all of the great things that Holy Cross is doing, you must make the same effort as it relates to Black excellence. We know that there are tons of folks who are in very prestigious positions, whether it's Ted Wells, whether it's the Honorable Clarence Thomas. There are so many numbers. There are countless numbers of Black folks who've done things at Holy Cross, made changes. I think Fred Givens is on the call. He's an excellent principal out of the New Jersey area who brings tons of students into Holy Cross. He was featured recently in the Holy Cross magazine. But the continuity of that experience, I think the college owes it to itself, not Black students. The college benefits from our presence. It's a very mutual experience. And if we really want to be serious about diversity, I think I mentioned this to Chris earlier, I am not against diversity as it stands, but I'm very much pro-Black. And it hurts me, it grieves me to have graduated in 1995 and as recently as 2020, talking to other Black females, Black women on campus, other Black students on campus, who are experiencing some of the same issues. That begs the question, what is Holy Cross really doing? And I'm not one to denounce any for progress, but I will ask hard questions in terms of how effective are those actions. So again, I would say, I would define Black excellence at Holy Cross as both a blessing and a burden. I hope that answered your question.
Wow, I got teary-eyed for a second. I am just I'm excited to rewatch this recording, which we will share with the Holy Cross community once we're done for today. But as Ari said in the chat, powerful words from you. And Black excellence, the story of survival, is how you started out. And Black excellence at Holy Cross is a blessing and a burden, and it's such a powerful statement to make, and I feel like there's so many folks who can resonate with that, right? And it's just so interesting that we're talking about Black excellence today when there's so much that's going on in the media, right now around Blackness and Black identity, and that we are where we are, right? You talked about your time on the Hill, and some of these issues still exist. Again, in the media, what's going on now with the royal family, like these same problems have existed and for centuries, and we're still we're still tackling them, present day. One of the things you wrapped up your statement by saying is that you have hard questions, and so I am curious, what are some of the hard questions you would ask today of the Holy Cross community?
Um, let me preface this. Okay, I'm going to try and wrap it up in a bow for you. Right. I believe that how you frame questions and how you think about information, how you shape it, defines in a lot of ways the way the information that you give is going to be received. And when I look at the institutional research department information that's on the Holy Cross website, and I look at the numbers of Black students who are admitted, and again, I'm pro-Black, I'm not against any other group that's going to be represented under the diversity umbrella, but I'm very much pro-Black. And we are categorizing diversity, equity, and inclusion under this huge umbrella. And let me qualify this next statement. I am not a fan of alumna for alumna's sake, okay? I believe that the Holy Cross community benefits from multiple identities being represented. We all learn from each other. But when the group that I'm most affected by seems to be under the radar, there's a problem for me. So my hard question would be for Holy Cross, and I do plan to ask this when I join the call for the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion group that's meeting on this coming Saturday, is what are you doing to make sure that diversity, equity, and inclusion means exactly what it says? Are we exchanging one for the other? Are we conflating issues? Are we blurring the lines? And if we are, all experience is not equal. Just because another group who's underrepresented is under the diversity umbrella, it does not mean that that group has the same experiences. So being Latin doesn't necessarily mean the same as being a part of the LBTGQ community. All of them don't blur, they don't blend the same way. So how are you making sure that the individual experiences of the groups under the diversity, equity, and inclusion umbrella, how are those individual group needs being met? Question number one. Question number two would be, just because we now are entering the fabulous era of having a Black Holy Cross president, I want to make sure that we're not going to ask him to solve all of the world's problems. Did we make the same demands of the people that came before him? So just because you now have a Black president at the campus, we must give him the same courtesy, the same understanding that we extended to past presidents. And then thirdly, I'm probably gonna have to do a bit more research on this. I'm not sure where the college stands in terms of issuing financial aid packages to students right now. I was very pleased to learn that we have quite a few Black students at Holy Cross whose parents can afford to pay for them to go to Holy Cross. That was not my story. I think Lenny and Fred, these are my big brothers who took me under their wings my first year at Holy Cross. They're on the call. I don't think we had that story. We were grateful to get that financial aid letter and support to attend Holy Cross and do some wonderful things on campus. I would venture to say that I hope that the same kind of financial assistance is available to students. So those would be three questions I would definitely ask of the community. You know, what do we mean? What are we saying? And for me, tell the truth, because I'm going to go back and do the research, and I will circle back. And this is my Holy Cross learning. This is my Holy Cross training, to be critical, to ask the questions, and to wait for the answer, and don't allow people to give you optics and things of that nature. I hope that answers your question.
Oh, it sure did. It sure did answer my question, and I think you shared some really important points there in terms of, and I think with everything that happened last summer has challenged institutions, right? Because a lot of institutions, speak to this idea of diversity and inclusion. And I think what happened last summer was like, but what are you actually talking about when you say diversity and inclusion, right? And lumping all groups together doesn't get at the root problem, right? Because when you lump groups together, then you're not effectively, right, identifying and also get into the root cause and coming up with substantial solutions to one's experiences, when, because not everybody, all groups don't experience the same thing, right? And so it's a problematic lens to go about diversity and inclusion work. We have to break down the different groups so that we can get somewhere. And if we're not doing that, and if we're lumping people together, as you say, under the same umbrella, then we're not actually doing justice oriented work, right?
And I
Because
just also wanted to say something else. One of the wonderful benefits of attending Holy Cross is that I had a chance to meet different kinds of Black folk at Holy Cross, right? I'm from the South, and the inner city of the inner city is where I grew up and was educated. Coming to Holy Cross, I met my Northern uh, Black brothers and sisters who had a different experience. And I wanted to speak to the fact that even within the Black community, right, there's difference. And within that diversity, there's so much strength. And this notion of a single Black presence or a single Black voice, I think it robs us of the beauty within, right? Um, I probably am most apt to work with the student from Brooklyn or the student from South Florida, the student from Georgia, who was number one or number two in their all Black high school, whose parents maybe worked daily jobs, not from the most affluent neighborhoods, but they saw opportunity. They saw themselves as having the ability to do things that others in their communities have never done. That's going to be my niche community, right? I can tell them how to come to a Holy Cross, kick butt, take what you can, spread your wings, meet new friends, and make the most of the experience. Because I think until there is an understanding that we are many, we're going to continue with the monolithic view of Blackness. And there's so much beauty within us. There's so much, the Holy Cross community allowed me the opportunity to see that, even though in South Florida, tons of Caribbean influences, tons of Latin influences, we were all still within the same class category. So coming to a Holy Cross with a student from a Latin background whose parent owned Goya, I'm like, what? It was just the experience. It allowed me to appreciate the richness. So again, that diversity and that beauty within is an opportunity that Holy Cross provided me.
awesome. Thank you for the addition to that. And I think, diversity itself is so rich, but then also when you get down to the Black community, there's even more diversity and even more richness. And I can speak to the fact that, when I attended Holy Cross, I attended Holy Cross as an international student from Jamaica. And so my perspective, right, is it's not different, but it adds to that powerful and rich story of Blackness and what it means to be Black at Holy Cross and to be Black in the US and to be Black on a global scale. There was a question that came up in the chat from Ariana. What would you advise students of color to do to hold the college accountable in their goals to make the campus diverse?
I would say number one, do your homework. What I mean by that is do your research. You got to know what you're talking about, and you got to say what you mean and mean what you say. So if you're going to build an argument, you can feel how you feel, but also find some supporting evidence to uphold why you feel the way you feel, and that can point to experiences that are maybe making the Black experience a little bit different than maybe other communities on campus. So when you present something to administration or SGA or whatever body that you choose to encounter to make change, have concrete examples. You know, use that critical thinking skills that we get at Holy Cross, ask the right questions, and have an end game in mind. So, and if you don't have an end game in mind, say it up front. Say that we're a work in progress. This is an organic experience. It's unfolding. We may grow, we may mutate, but I know that I've identified something that's very real to me. The second thing I would say is stick to your guns. You are a Holy Cross student. You matter on that campus. And if you, the single authority, have a problem, raise it. Don't be afraid to keep knocking at the door. I mean, I think I bothered administration so much until they got tired of me, but I didn't care because listen, I came to Holy Cross to get what I needed, right? I'm from a family where I was the second to go to college. My other family members and friends went to HBCUs. So I didn't necessarily need that part of the college experience. I did, however, need what Holy Cross and Harvard and Yale had to offer. I wanted to see how other communities experience the world. And in order to do that, I had to be bold. Now, it's my personality. Everyone's not going to be the same. But if you're going to approach administration, or if you're going to approach student government or whatever entity you're going to entertain to hold them accountable, you must do your research. You must have things in line. You must have some steps. It doesn't have to be a book. It can be 2 points. I like to see this action. And come back, have discussions. You present the agenda. You take charge of the experience that you want to have. And don't expect people to embrace you. You know, nobody wants to come up and say there's a problem and, oh, let me help you solve that problem. Be open to the fact that you may not get the warm reception, but still plow on, still charge on because you matter. So when you're gonna hold the college accountable, do your homework, know your argument. If you don't have a full platform as of yet, acknowledge it, but plow on and make sure that as you are progressing and asking questions and demanding change, because you can, right? You don't go to a fight, you don't go to a gunfight with a stick, right? So you have to have the boldness and the expectation that I matter and I want change, and I'm going to stay here until you do something to make me feel a bit more respected at the university. I hope that answers your question, Ariana.
I have a follow-up to that. She said, beautifully said, thank you. Do you have any memorable experience when you, during your time at Holy Cross, where, you know, you led efforts to hold the institution accountable, or even if it's not a Holy Cross, even in your own professional career, can you speak to a time?
Yeah, I'm probably going to pull on Fred and Lenny here. So at the end of our first year, end of my first year, and they were seniors at the time, there were, I believe it was phone calls and some racial incidents that happened on campus, and a big uproar. We had a convocation. We had a whole bunch of stuff that happened. And I joined committees. I think Father Brooks was still our president at the time, and Mr. Delvelkio, a ton of administrators who are no longer there. And I started a gospel choir on campus, and we just asked to go to mass and sing, just expose. I mean, and we had students who were like, what is this? Like, we don't do this at mass. one of the benefits of being so bold and just bringing me to the campus was that people recognized that there were differences, right? And if we are truly supposed to be men and women for others, if we are truly coming to college to really embrace difference and learn, then that requires us to really be open to experiences and even those things that make us uncomfortable. So I was a part of a group, and we're relaunching Connect. It's a student independent publication at Holy Cross, and it was for Black people by Black people. But we also had other folks who wrote in this publication about our experiences. And Fred and Lenny are and Kona are the founding editors, along with Annie Myers, who passed away in the 90s. But this opportunity allowed us to use our voices. We didn't allow people to co-opt our messages. We went into the Worcester community, we went to Black businesses, and we solicited folks to give us donations. And if you could see the final product, where we cut and paste and did articles, but it was ours, right? And what it allowed us to say, the Crusader represented one perspective, right? The film review represented one perspective, and so does Connect. It represents a perspective, and just taking responsibility for my experience at Holy Cross. I didn't wait for folks to tell me, right? And the benefit of that was that I was one of 7 students at a time where I know now students of all persuasions study abroad or maybe go to a semester away. But in the 90s, it was very novel. So to do things like, I was one of 7 students, the only Black students to study at Oxford University my junior year, was awesome. I was the first Black woman inducted into Phi Beta Kappa at Holy Cross, unheard of, right? And I take pride in these things because, listen, I'm the youngest of 8 children. My mother cleaned white folks' houses in the South to give me the opportunities that I had. So coming to a Holy Cross where I didn't go to Mass, I was not educated in a Catholic institution. I mean, from the South, we wear white year round, and I'm coming to Holy Cross with white shoes on in September, and my friends are looking at me like, what is she doing, right? But it was the opportunity to excel in an environment that was not necessarily defined for me. So in a nutshell, I would say just taking charge of my Holy Cross experience would be like the best blessing for me, having attended the school.
Wow, I'm just here taking notes from what you were sharing, and which I really appreciate you just being vulnerable with us. You know, a lot of times we talk about the pain and the struggles that we go through, which is okay, because it's important to unearth those experiences. But did you have any, you know, memorable experience of your time at Holy Cross? It's some, you know, an experience where you look back and you laugh and you know, you're grateful for, or, you know, did you have any of those fond, memorable experiences during your time at Holy Cross?
Oh, absolutely. And again, I'm gonna point out my 2 brothers. There's 2 or 4 on the phone right now. My first year, I'm from a large family. I think I mentioned I'm the youngest of 8, and I have 6 brothers, 6 natural brothers. So coming to a Holy Cross, I was obviously going to look for that experience to recreate my brothers on campus that I had in my life. And I lived in Milady, right? First year students typically lived in Milady at that time. So Fred, Lenny, the late Leon Dickerson, and Judge Rich Nunez lived in Alumni. Well, I didn't necessarily want to walk across campus early in the morning. I had 8 o'clock campus, 8 o'clock classes. I'm from Florida, and it's cold, right? So I politely made myself known, and myself and 3 other sisters, these are Holy Cross sisters, we still keep in touch. We basically took over their room, you know, and the beautiful thing about it was, you know, they showed us around. They took us under their wings. They taught me how to play spades. We watched TV together. We cooked dinner together. We did all of the things that we needed to do. We watched Def Comedy Jam on Friday nights. It was a family. We created the environment that we needed to make it through Holy Cross. And I think above all, these friendships endure. I'm on vacation right now and I'm sending them pictures like, hey bros, this is where I'm staying, this is what I'm doing. And they're asking me if I need a chaperone. I'm like, well, not really, but you know, I guess I could have, but it's those kind of enduring friendships, and you have to foster those environments, right? Where here it is, nearly 30 years later, there's not an experience that I have that I don't feel that I can pick up the phone and say, hey, Fred, I'm struggling. Hey, Kona, I'm struggling. Hey, Lynn, I'm struggling. Lynn, tell me about Bitcoin. It's those kinds of relationships and friendships. And even some of the other sisters who are on, they're my family. Maria is on here. Carrie's on here. Carrie times two. They're on the call. Amy Quinn. My mother passed in January. I literally just met them probably in May. Their class of 92, right? We just met over the issue of social justice and the George Floyd killing last year, but the Holy Cross community gave us a platform where we united as a family. So when I address them, it's always, hey fam, right? That's the beauty of a Holy Cross experience. I may have never entertained these individuals had I gone on to Yale or FAMU or Bethune-Cookman, but Holy Cross provided me that opportunity, and I genuinely considered them family, right? And I'll tell you this one other experience. John F. Mee, I want to say Mr. Mee graduated in 64, 65. My first year at Holy Cross, one of the Black alum I met was Walter Roy. I don't know what year Walter graduated, but he connected me with Mr. Mee, who was at that time either a part of Bishop Healy or may have been a board member. Mr. Mee used to bring me food. He used to bring bags of food. He and his family, every time they came up for the games, we'd always go out to eat. We'd go to Shrewsbury. I didn't know him. I was born in 73. He graduated in 64. But it's those kinds of enduring connections and those types of relationships. And you can sense the joy that I have because it's real, right? So here it is, 2021. And some of us hadn't spoken since we graduated from Holy Cross. And something like the social unrest that happened last year brought us all back together. And I'm very grateful for those experiences. I have a whole bunch others, but I'm going to keep it PG.
Oh my God, I appreciate you so much. And everything that you are sharing, and the chat is just going off. I feel like everyone is just like snapping and just really grateful for everything that you're talking about. And then, one of the questions that I asked, so you talked about family and community, and I think every time we have these sessions, I feel like people resonate with like that, their chosen family at Holy Cross, or the family that they were able to build while being a student at Holy Cross as a support system, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm curious as to, to know what resources or support were available to you during your time at Holy Cross to help you excel, to help you succeed, to help you reach your greatness?
Okay. Well, interesting that you asked that, because I'm going to probably pair it in a couple of ways. My high school teacher, my high school English teacher, was a Holy Cross grad, Natalie King, class of 82. And she told me to visit Holy Cross. I'm like, Massachusetts, not even Boston, Worcester, I'm not going there. But when I went to the campus, I instantly fell in love with the campus. And on my at my initial visit, it was Black Weekend. That's the weekend they bring you up and fool you, make it seem like it's all this great Blackness going on, and that's not the case. But what happened was Yolanda Rabin, well, I think she was, I forget Yoli's original, her maiden last name, but she showed Yolanda Rabin. She did a production as a part of her thesis. And you saw all of this Blackness, right? I saw Black football players, and they were easy on the eyes, these brothers were, right? And they all contributed to this production. And it was something that she had to fight for, to the ability to present her thesis the way she wanted to do it. So you see this production done by a student, by a Black woman. It set the ground state. I mean, she was one of the most influential people in terms of me coming to Holy Cross, knowing that you can do whatever you want to do here. So that would be one. My high school teacher, number two. My high school teacher's baby sister, Nichelle King, class of 92, she graduated with Lenny and Fred. She also got me my job in the audiovisual department at Holy Cross. So I did not have to work in Kimball, thank God, right? So I was making connections before I got to campus, right? And then when I arrived, Greta McNeil did not play the radio, okay? We had a week where Black students came up a week before school started, I think in late August or early February, late August, early September. And this was a time we took a retreat, we went somewhere, and it was called Getting Down to Business. She had professors like B.E. McCarthy, Maurice Jarash. There were tons of white professors who came, looked at our writing ability, looked at our skill sets, and they told us straight up where we were. They taught us about time management. They told us about, most of the kids may have LL Bean on or Benetton. Those were the hip clothes at the time. You may not know. They may have never seen anyone like you except on Good Times. They told us the truth about Holy Cross. So a lot of my success, or the things that helped me move forward at Holy Cross, was preparedness from a community of people who believed in us. The other thing is that, again, going back to the allies, there were white folks at Holy Cross, and I'm from the South. I was not the most trusting folks who didn't look like me, but there were actually white folks at Holy Cross who wanted you to succeed, while there were others who were not welcoming as well. Some of it just because they just didn't know, right? But we had individuals, Tom Riley. I think Tom Riley maybe have worked in finance or somewhere like that. He would actually say, okay, Phyllis, meet me in Hogan. Let me take a look at this paper. And he would mark up my paper. Now, I thought I could write. I was number one in my high school class. What are you doing? But what it meant is that he was so concerned at my success that he didn't care how I felt personally. He knew that what he offered was for me to get better at my craft. So I was surrounded by people who really were interested in me having the best experience that I could have at Holy Cross. And they were not all Black. So when I came back to Holy Cross, I think in 2018 for the 50th, it was so nice to see B.E. McCarthy and some of the other folks who really genuinely loved Black students on that campus and wanted us to succeed. So it was the community of believers, I would say.
So on that same note, with the community of believers, and one of the questions that came up in the chat was, you talk about these community of believers. You talk about Greta McNeil being that mentor and that source of inspiration for you at Holy Cross. What advice do you have for current Black students to find their own Greta, to find their community of believers to help them achieve their excellence?
Well, I'm going to honestly say that there is a dearth at Holy Cross right now. I know that OME has at least 10 or more groups, multicultural groups, but the presence of an Greta McNeil, I think, is missing, okay? Greta McNeil was the glue that held us together. So folks thought they were going to take Greta's class and just pass because she was Black. No, no, if you didn't do the work, she would fail your butt and then call you in and tell you what you needed to do. I think, first of all, for Black students, I don't know how you're going to get an Greta, but I think we need to ask the administration for an Greta-like person. And by that, I mean, you have to kind of identify what the needs are. It could be one need, because one need is still important, or it could be a group of needs. And then you have to find the college personnel who really wants to provide that service. So if you have a Black professor who's now teaching chemistry or biology, they may not want to be of service to the Black community that way. And you have to allow that dynamic to be readily recognized, right? But I think we have to ask for it and to wait for it to happen. So I think we need an Greta-like presence. That would be number one. Number two, I would say go get it. Work color outside of the lines. Don't limit yourself to the predefined circles. I love BSU. I love Lasso. I love Asia. But I also say go where no one else in the room looks like you, because it's going to challenge you to think outside the box. Like there are folks, I'm like, I would never agree with anything you're saying, but I can respect what they're saying because I can understand the starting point, the starting premise. I can understand the argument, and I can hold my own when it comes to having a discussion, right? But you can only do that if you put yourself in context and in environments that you're not familiar with. So go, right? Write for the parent review, see if they'll receive your article, right? But the only way you're going to get it is to go get it. And then thirdly, I would say value this time, right? Because all there is outside of college is work, family, bills, and you start the dynamic over and you got to enjoy life. So the time that you have, travel, broaden your horizons, meet new people, study, travel abroad, just do the things that you may not normally do and take advantage of Holy Cross. You meet great people, you meet enduring friendships. I mean, I'll say this last thing and I'm going to wrap up. I mean, one of my closest friends, Maggie Hermes, she's also class of 95. I was in between living spaces when I did my master's at BU. And she said, oh, Phil, come on. And she let me stay for the summer until the fall semester started. We're best friends. We're good friends right now. I can't wait to visit her in Texas, but it's those types of connections that you just hold on to. And Holy Cross provides that. And if you don't like something, open your mouth and demand change. That's what I would say to the current students at Holy Cross.
Wow. Also, Maggie's on the call and she shared her message that she loves you. I'm loving the community today. One of my promises with these programs, especially during lunch break, is that I want to make sure that we, give folks the time to pause and breathe. It's our lunch break. And so my aim is to end by 12:50. So with that being said, right, the question that I asked was how I wanted us to end our session, but it's okay to go back to one of the questions that would lead up to the last question. Thinking back to your time on the Hill, what would you have changed, or what would you have added to your experience at Holy Cross?
That's a great question. Well, hindsight's 2020, but I would say definitely the continuity of experience. It pains me to know that kids are still experiencing the same things we went through, and they have no knowledge that, we made efforts, we made strides. So if I could go back in time, I would have wanted to have been a part of efforts to make sure that Black excellence is a permanent fixture at Holy Cross, not just for my sake as a Black student, but for the benefit of the Holy Cross community at large. So the continuity of the Black experience would have been an effort that I wish I had contributed more to. Because you have pockets, we had Black female SGA presidents, Lisa Taylor and Marion Bradshaw, who studies and lives in China. No, Black women, they don't even know about them. And these are some phenomenal sisters. Why don't we know about them? The college owes it to the Holy Cross community to make sure that continuity exists. And then those of us who are alum and know that we can contribute and come back, we owe it to ourselves to make sure that legacy is a permanent fixture at Holy Cross.
Wow, I must say that your words and your stories and everything that you shared today were all insightful and powerful and needed during this time. And to our Black students, as you said, you matter, be bold, be yourself, and take responsibility for your experience. With that being said, Phyllis, Dr. Jones, we so appreciate you for being with us and being in community. To the folks who joined us today, thank you so much. The commentary and the comments that were being made in the chat gave me life, and so thank you all for joining us. We'll continue to have these bi-weekly sessions this semester, and we'll talk through about what the future will look like for bringing folks like Dr. Jones back to campus in a virtual space. But thank you all for joining us, and I hope that you all have a wonderful week. Dr. Jones, enjoy the vacation. Take care of yourself. We so love and appreciate you. Thank you so much. You are such a gift to the Holy Cross community. Take
Thank
care,
you.
everyone.